Officer Daniel Whitaker had served the city of Washington, D.C. for nearly 10 years, a decade of patrolling bustling streets and quiet neighborhoods, mediating domestic disputes, responding to violent crimes, and navigating the thin line between trust and suspicion had shaped him into a man who believed deeply in the values of law and order. But more than that, he believed in instinct. His instinct had saved him more times than he cared to remember. And while experience taught him caution, it also made him trust the subtle clues, the glance that lingered too long, the nervous flicker in a gaze, the tension in a driver's hands. That Thursday evening started like many others. Daniel's patrol route wound through some of D.C.'s most affluent neighborhoods, where pristine townhomes lined the streets like pieces on a chessboard. The air smelled of expensive cologne and manicured hedges. His shift was already long, his mind fatigued from the endless hum of the radio and the weight of responsibility. And yet, he remained focused. That's when he saw it. A sleek black Mercedes-Benz glided past him, rolling through a stop sign at a quiet intersection. It wasn't a blatant violation, just a slow, easy roll, one that most drivers got away with unnoticed. But Daniel's trained eye caught something else. The driver's glance in the rearview mirror wasn't casual. It was sharp, assessing. A flicker of something, and that was enough. Without hesitation, Daniel flipped on his cruiser's lights and signaled for the vehicle to pull over. The Mercedes eased to a smooth stop at the curb, its turn signal blinking methodically. Daniel approached cautiously, his right hand hovering close to his holster out of habit. He noted the tinted windows, but saw a silhouette shifting inside. His breath slowed as he neared the driver's side. The window lowered smoothly, revealing a middle-aged black man in an impeccably tailored navy blue suit. His hands rested openly on the steering wheel, fingers splayed just enough to show he wasn't hiding anything. His demeanor was calm, collected. "Good evening, officer," the man said, his voice smooth and deliberate. Daniel nodded once, professional but brisk. "License and registration, please." There was no small talk, no friendly preamble. The man reached slowly toward the glove compartment, his movements practiced and non-threatening. He retrieved a leather wallet and registration papers with the precision of someone familiar with the routine. Daniel accepted the documents and gave them a quick glance. The driver's license read, Justice Leonard A. Caldwell. The name pricked something in Daniel's mind, a distant recognition he couldn't place right away. He shifted focus to the listed address, Georgetown, a prestigious neighborhood. It fit the expensive car and the tailored suit. "Do you know why I pulled you over tonight?" Daniel asked, keeping his voice neutral. Caldwell nodded, his expression remaining composed. "I believe I may have rolled through that stop sign. My apologies, officer." Daniel frowned slightly. There was something unsettling about Caldwell's composure. Most people, guilty or not, were at least a little nervous during a traffic stop. They stammered, avoided eye contact, searched for justifications. But not this man. He was calm in a way Daniel wasn't accustomed to. "Where are you headed this evening?" Daniel continued. "My home," Caldwell replied. "And where are you coming from?" "Work." Daniel's brow furrowed. At this hour, most workplaces were closed, particularly in Caldwell's apparent income bracket. "And what kind of work do you do, sir?" Caldwell folded his hands again over the steering wheel. "I serve on the Supreme Court of the United States." The words hit Daniel like a brick. He scrutinized the man again. Caldwell's suit was immaculate, his demeanor steady, his gaze unwavering. It wasn't impossible, but something inside Daniel resisted the information. "A Supreme Court justice," Daniel repeated, more to himself than as a question. "That's correct," Caldwell confirmed with a slight nod. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. He should have known the name, recognized the face. But in his defense, Supreme Court justices weren't celebrities. Still, something gnawed at him. "Would you mind stepping out of the vehicle, sir?" Daniel asked. There was the barest hesitation before Caldwell nodded and complied. He moved deliberately, slowly, with a kind of grace that suggested he'd done this before. He was taller than Daniel had expected, and his presence was quietly imposing. "Turn around for me," Daniel instructed, his tone firm. Caldwell paused. Is there a reason for this, officer? Standard procedure, Daniel replied tightly. No, it's not, Caldwell said softly. Daniel bristled. He wasn't about to be lectured on procedure, not even by a Supreme Court justice. Turn around, he repeated, his voice harder now. For a moment, Caldwell simply stood there, meeting Daniel's gaze with something Daniel couldn't immediately interpret. Disappointment. Not fear. Not anger. Something colder. But Caldwell turned. Daniel patted him down, hands practiced and quick. He found nothing unusual. A wallet. A cell phone. No weapons. No contraband. Is this really necessary? Caldwell asked, his voice still calm. Daniel didn't answer. Instead, he walked back to his cruiser, holding Caldwell's license between his fingers like it was a live wire. He radioed dispatch. No warrants. No prayers. Clean. Just as he expected. Still, he needed to be sure. He pulled out his phone and searched the name. Within seconds, images filled his screen. Justice Leonard A. Caldwell, a towering figure in American law, renowned for his sharp legal mind and unwavering commitment to justice. There was no mistake. Daniel exhaled slowly. The weight of realization settled on him like a lead blanket. He had treated one of the most powerful men in the country like a suspect. He closed his eyes briefly, gripping the steering wheel to steady himself. Taking a breath, he walked back to Caldwell, who stood patiently by his car, his expression unreadable. Justice Caldwell, Daniel began, but the words caught in his throat. What could he say? I didn't know who you were. That wasn't an excuse. Caldwell studied him silently. Then, after a moment, he extended his hand. Daniel hesitated before shaking it. You have a good night, Officer Whitaker, Caldwell said evenly. Then he returned to his car and drove away. Daniel stood there long after the taillights of the Mercedes disappeared down the street. A strange mix of shame and frustration churned inside him. He had always believed himself to be a fair cop. But tonight, something had been laid bare, and he wasn't sure he liked what he saw. A quiet reckoning. The shift ended, but Daniel didn't go home. Instead, he parked outside the Supreme Court building, staring up at its grand facade as dawn broke across the sky. He had no plan, no purpose, other than a nagging feeling that he needed to be there. When he finally stepped out his cruiser, his badge felt heavier than ever. This wasn't about protocol anymore. It was about something deeper. Inside the building, he was met by a receptionist who raised an eyebrow at his request. Do you have an appointment? She asked. No, Daniel replied, clearing his throat. But could you tell Justice Caldwell that Officer Whitaker is here? From last night. Minutes passed before a side door opened and Justice Caldwell himself appeared. His expression unreadable. Follow me, Caldwell said simply. Daniel followed him down a long corridor lined with bookshelves until they entered a quiet office. Caldwell gestured toward a chair, but Daniel remained standing. I wanted to apologize, Daniel said. He forced himself to meet Caldwell's gaze. I shouldn't have treated you like a suspect. He exhaled sharply. I messed up. Caldwell regarded him for a long moment. Do you know how many times I've been stopped, Officer Whitaker? Daniel swallowed. He didn't need to ask. Caldwell continued, his voice steady. It's not the first time, and it won't be the last. But what concerns me most is that you don't even realize why you reacted the way you did. Daniel's chest tightened. I thought something was off. I was following my training. Your training, Caldwell repeated quietly. Or your bias? The word hit harder than any punch Daniel had taken in his years on the force. But instead of getting defensive, he nodded slowly. I don't want to be that kind of cop. Then don't be, Caldwell replied. Silence stretched between them. Finally, Caldwell leaned back in his chair. The fact that you're here says something, he said. But an apology means nothing if you don't change your actions. Daniel nodded again, this time with understanding. I get it. Caldwell's lips twitched into something almost like a smile. I hope so. As Daniel left the Supreme Court building, he felt something shift inside him. Change wasn't easy, but maybe it started with one honest conversation. What can we learn? Bias is real, even when we don't want to admit it. If you believe in justice, fairness, and the power of self-reflection, share this message. Let's keep the conversation going. Let's be better.